Imagine you're just busy using your computer like you normally do every single day, and then literally out of the blue, this happens. You see the screen that tells you your device ran into a problem and needs to restart. Or if you're on a newer version of Windows, the screen might look like this, but regardless, that's what we like to call a blue screen of death. Or I guess these days you could call it a black screen of death. Now, if you've ever seen this screen, you know the feeling. Your heart drops, you have no idea what just happened, and you're sitting there thinking if you've lost everything that's saved on your computer. Now, I spent over 10 years fixing these in my computer repair shop, and in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix every single one of them step by step. The good news is that 90% of these blue screens are caused by the same few things, and most of them are also easy to fix. Now, before we fix anything, let me quickly explain what's actually happening. A blue screen means that Windows hit a problem that's so bad it can't safely keep running. So instead of corrupting your files, it stops everything and then shows you this error screen. Now, the important part is this stop code down here, because this tells you exactly what went wrong. Now, you don't need to memorize these stop codes or anything. I'm going to show you a free tool that reads them for you in just a moment. But before we get to that, it's important that you understand the most common causes for these blue screens of death. So most blue screens of death fall into one of these categories. The first one being drivers, which accounts for nearly 70% of all blue screens appearing on Windows. And this is related to bad, outdated, or recently updated drivers, and especially graphics and network drivers. And usually when the blue screen is related to drivers, the stop codes are either the IRQL not less or equal, or the driver IRQL not less or equal stop code. Next up, we've got memory or RAM, which accounts for nearly 15% of all blue screens of death. Now, this can be due to faulty, failing, or incompatible RAM sticks you might not know about. Usually the stop codes are page fault in a non-paged area, or kernel security check failure. Third on the list is disk or storage, which accounts for like 10% of all blue screens of death. Now, these can be due to a failing hard drive or SSD with bad sectors, or file system corruption. And usually here, the stop codes you see are kernel data in page error, or critical process died. And lastly, we've got software, which accounts for roughly 5% of blue screens of death. Now, this can be due to antivirus conflicts, bad updates, unstable overclocks, or software that corrupts system files. And usually the stop codes you see here are the system service exception and DPC watchdog violation stop codes. Now, contrary to the name, blue screen of death, in most cases, it doesn't actually mean that your computer is dying.
By the way, if you're looking to secure your connection, I personally use Proton VPN. They have an actual free tier with unlimited bandwidth and no logs, which is very rare. It's perfect if you just want to browse privately or bypass basic blocks. Now, the free version auto-connects you to the fastest available server, so if you need to manually pick a specific country, like for streaming, you will need their paid plan. This video is not sponsored by them, but I do have affiliate links in the description. If you start with the free version and then decide to upgrade later, I'll earn a small commission at no extra cost to you, and it helps to support the channel. Thanks for that. Now, back to the video.
Now, the first thing is we need to figure out what actually caused your blue screen. The good news is that Windows saves a crash dump file every time you get a blue screen, and this free tool is going to read it for you. This tool is called BlueScreenView by Nearsoft, and you can download it for free from the official downloads page. Now, I'll include all of the links and commands that I use in this video in my written guide that you can find on my website, and I'll have a link to that in the description of this video. But on the BlueScreenView downloads page, you can just download the BlueScreenView in zip file, then just choose a save location and save it. Once it's downloaded, just open the folder, and this is a zip file, so we'll need to extract it, and I'm just going to extract it to the downloads folder, and then inside of this folder, I'm going to have the BlueScreenView application, and then I'll launch that. Once it's launched, this is the interface that you should be seeing, and it'll display all of the blue screens that you've ever had on your computer. Now, this tool gives you all of the information you need with regards to the blue screen of death and why it happened. The most important ones will be the bug check string. In my case, we can see that it's critical process died. And then the other one is the caused by driver table, where we can see exactly what executable or what driver or whatever it was that failed critically so that Windows couldn't continue working. Now, with this information, you can then start troubleshooting the exact cause of that blue screen by Googling these bug check strings or these driver file names, or ask an AI assistant about it and then troubleshoot it that way. But if you don't want to dig through crash dumps, that's totally fine, because the fixes I'm going to show you are going to work regardless, and we're going to work through them in order from easiest to hardest. So before we touch anything, let me ask you the most important question. What changed recently? In my computer repair shop, this was the first thing I asked, and most of the time the answer tells you exactly where to look. First, hardware. Did you recently install new hardware? A new graphics card, new RAM, new SSD or hard drive, or even a USB peripheral? If you did, and the blue screens started right after that, then that might be the cause. Remove whatever you installed or connected to the computer, and then boot it up again and see if the blue screens stop. If they stop, the hardware or whatever you connected or installed is either faulty, not compatible with your system, or you just didn't install or connect it properly. So try one more time by installing it again or connecting it again and starting up the computer, and if the blue screens come back, return it or replace it. Secondly, software. Did you recently install a new program, a new antivirus, a VPN, a overclocking utility, whatever it might be? Did the blue screen start happening right after you installed a new piece of software? If it did, then uninstall the software and see if the blue screens stop. Did the blue screen start after installing a recent Windows update? Then navigate to the update history inside of the Windows Update settings. And inside here, you're going to find the Uninstall Updates tab. And here you can uninstall the latest Windows update that was installed. And by uninstalling the latest Windows update, it might just fix the blue screen that you're seeing. So just sit back and think to yourself what changed recently with regards to hardware or software in your computer, and then undo that change and see if the blue screen stops. This is usually the quickest and easiest fix and normally doesn't require any special tools. Okay, but if nothing changed or undoing it didn't help, then let's move on to the second fix, which is checking your drivers. Like I mentioned before, the number one cause of blue screens is drivers, and specifically bad graphics drivers or network drivers, or just a recent driver update that went wrong. Now, to start troubleshooting your drivers, you can right-click on the Start button and then select the Device Manager. In Device Manager, you can see the different drivers that are installed on your system. For example, your network drivers. You can also see your display drivers, your storage drivers, or the drivers for your SSD or hard drive. Basically, you can see any driver that's installed on your Windows system in the Device Manager. Now, if you know or suspect which driver is causing the blue screen on your system, you can then navigate to that device in Device Manager, right-click on it and select Properties. From here, you can go to the Driver tab, and then you can click on Rollback Driver. You'll be prompted to enter a reason. You can just say for another reason and then just type anything. I'm just going to type no and then click on yes. And that's then going to uninstall that driver or roll back to the previous driver that was installed on your system. And in some cases, the older driver will be more stable and the blue screens will stop. Now, for some hardware, when you go to the properties of that device and then to the Driver tab, the rollback driver option might be grayed out. In that case, you can use the update driver option and then automatically search for updated drivers. And if a new driver is available, download that and install it and see if the blue screens stop. Now, if you didn't update or install any drivers yourself recently, the driver might have been updated by Windows Update. And in that case, you can go to Windows Update in the Windows settings. Then you can navigate to the Update History tab in Windows Settings. And in the Update History, it's also going to tell you which drivers were updated by Windows Update. And if drivers were installed or updated without you knowing about it, it might have happened via Windows Update. And this can also help you narrow down which driver is faulty or corrupted. And you can then go back to Device Manager and uninstall or roll back the driver to a previous version based on the information that you get in the update history. Now, I've also got dedicated video guides and tutorials that show you exactly how to install or update drivers. So if you need any help with that, go ahead and check out the videos on screen now, and I'll also have these linked in the description of this video. Now, if drivers aren't the problem, then the next most common cause is faulty RAM or memory. Your computer might have a bad stick of memory installed and you wouldn't even know it. So the next step is to test your memory or RAM for errors. Now, thankfully, Windows has a built-in tool for this. It's called the Windows Memory Diagnostic. So you can just do a search for it in the start menu and then select the best match, which is the Windows Memory Diagnostic. And once you open that, it'll have two modes. You can either restart now and then check for problems, or you can check for problems the next time the computer starts up. Now, in this example, I'm just going to restart now and check for problems, and it is recommended. So the computer is going to restart, and when it restarts, you're going to see this screen here, the Windows Memory Diagnostics tool screen, and this is going to test the memory in the computer for any errors with the Windows built-in tool. So you can see from the status that no problems have been detected yet, and although the test may appear inactive at times, it is still running, so please wait until testing is complete. And depending on the amount of RAM that you have in your computer, this process can take quite a while, so just be patient with it, and it will eventually complete. Or if it crashes during the Windows Memory Diagnostic tool, that also tells you that most likely the cause of the blue screen is the memory that's in your computer. And in that case, if you have multiple sticks of RAM, you'll need to start testing each one individually. But once the test is complete, the computer is going to restart again and take you back to the desktop. And if you don't see any result or any screen that tells you whether the memory passed or failed, then you can just do a search for the event viewer and then open the event viewer in Windows. And then once it's open on the left, click on Windows Logs and then click on System. Then on the right here, you can click on Find. And this is going to open a box where you can search for something in the logs. And then what you want to search for is Memory Diagnostics-Results. And it is case sensitive. You need to type it exactly as seen on screen now. And then you can click on Find Next. And it will then show you inside of the event viewer which entry was the memory diagnostic results. So I'm just going to open this up here so we can get a better look at it. And you can see the source is Memory Diagnostics-Results. And then right at the bottom here for the details, it tells us that the Windows Memory Diagnostic tested the computer's memory and it detected no errors. So on this computer, the memory is fine. There are no RAM errors, at least not according to the Windows Memory Diagnostic tool. And if for you, it reported that there were errors detected, then you would need to replace your RAM or figure out which RAM stick it is, which is faulty, if you have multiple sticks of RAM. Now, I am going to be honest with you, the built-in Windows Memory Diagnostic tool is not the best thing that you can use to test the memory for errors. I always recommend people to use memtest86, and I already have an in-depth video guide and tutorial on the channel about how you can use memtest86 to test your RAM for errors. And I highly recommend that you check that out if you think the RAM is faulty. But the Windows Memory Diagnostic tool is a good start and it's available for everyone. So that's why I included it as the first option. But just know, if you want to be 100% sure that it's not your memory or RAM that's faulty, the best test is going to be memtest86. And you can also find a link to the memtest86 tutorial in the description of this video. Now, if your RAM checks out and all of the tests completed without any errors, then the next thing you want to test are your drives, meaning your hard drives and SSDs. So to test a drive for errors in Windows, you can right-click on the Start button and then open either the terminal or PowerShell as admin. Then you can run the following command, which is check disk. Now, in this example, we're testing the C drive, but if you have multiple drives with multiple letters, then you would replace the C with whatever drive letter you have in your computer. But in this example, we're testing the C drive. So you can run the command that you can see on screen now. And once again, I'll have these commands in my written guide as well, which is linked in the description of this video. You'll be prompted if you want to run the check disk the next time the system restarts. You can just type Y for yes, and then press enter. And then the volume will be checked the next time the system restarts. So you can go ahead and restart the computer. Then once the computer boots up, you should see a message that says to skip disk checking, press any key within a certain amount of seconds. But you don't want to press any key. You just want to let it go through and do the check disk. And if it has any errors, it should try and fix it. This also might take a while depending on the amount of data that's on that disk. But if it crashes during this process, the most likely culprit for your blue screen might be a faulty hard drive or SSD. Now, once again, I'm going to be honest with you. A check disk can only catch a certain amount of errors. It can't look for physical issues on the drive. And that's where you want to use the software that came with your SSD to check the health of that SSD. Or if you have a hard drive or you don't know what brand your SSD is, you can also use this guide that I've created before, which shows you how to test your hard drive or solid state drive for errors using the Seagate cTools Desktop Edition tool. And you can test any hard drive or SSD with this software and figure out if it might be failing or if it might be time to replace that drive. And once again, I'll also leave a link to this video in the description down below if you need it. Now, if you've verified that your hard drives and SSDs are in perfect health and in working order, then you can move on to the next step, which is scanning and repairing corrupt Windows system files. So to start, once again, right-click on the Start button and then open either the terminal or PowerShell as admin. Then once it's open, you're going to type the following command or just copy it from my written guide on my website. But when you run this DISM command, it's going to use the Deployment Image Servicing and Management tool to basically scan for and repair any corrupt system files that it finds. Now, this process can take quite some time, so you'll just have to be patient with it and wait for it to complete. And then once the DISM command has completed successfully, then you can go ahead and run the next command, which is SFC//scan now. And this is going to do another verification scan on the system. Now, this one is much faster than the DISM command, but once it's complete, it'll tell you if it found any corrupt system files. In my case, the Windows Resource Protection did find corrupt files and successfully repaired them. So after you ran these two commands, you can then go ahead and restart your computer and see if that fixed the blue screens for you. Now, if these first 5 methods still hasn't fixed your blue screen, then the next step is safe mode and system restore. And if you've gotten to this point, then I assume the system won't even boot properly and that you're consistently seeing the blue screen during the boot process. And you're most probably getting to this screen here, which is the Windows recovery environment. Now, from here, you can go to the troubleshoot option. And once you click on that, click on the advanced options. And after that on startup settings, because right now we want to get to safe mode. You can click on restart, and on this startup settings screen right here, you want to choose option 4 to enable safe mode. So press 4 on the keyboard and it'll then start booting into safe mode. Now, once you're in safe mode, you can do the exact same things I've shown you throughout this video, like uninstalling software, uninstalling Windows updates, uninstalling drivers, running the DISM and SFC commands. You can do all of that and then restart the computer again and see if the blue screen of death was fixed for you. If that still doesn't fix it for you, then back in the Windows recovery screen, you can go to troubleshoot, then advanced options, and this time you're going to select system restore. And in the system restore page, you can click on next, and it'll then show you all of the available restore points. If you don't see any, you can also click on show more restore points, and it'll show you the restore points that were created at different times on the computer. And you can then select one of these restore points, click on next, and then click on finish to continue restoring the computer to a previous point in time when it was working. But if you don't have any restore points, then this isn't an option for you. Now, if nothing has worked for you up until this point, then your only option left is to do a clean install, where you do a fresh Windows installation and you wipe everything. Now, there's 2 ways you can go about this. The first one is to use the reset this PC option in the troubleshoot menu, and then you can choose between keeping your files or removing everything. I suggest that you keep your files because it will remove all of the apps and settings and basically everything that's problematic on the current Windows installation. And then I also suggest that you use a cloud download instead of a local reinstall, so you get a fresh copy of the Windows files that won't have any system corruption. But if you can, I would suggest doing a complete clean install of Windows and not a reset, and then use a new Windows ISO file flashed to a USB flash drive, so you can do a completely clean install of Windows and start fresh from a clean slate. But you don't have to do this the hard way. I've got a full in-depth tutorial on my channel about how you can use Winenhance's Windows Installation Media Utility to create a custom ISO file, which is already debloated and optimized from the start by the time you get to the desktop, and I'll link that in the description of this video too. Just know that before you do a clean install, you must back up all of your important files to another drive, because when you do a clean install, it is going to wipe all of the data from your Windows drive or from the drive you're installing Windows to, and you must have a backup if you have important files on that drive. Now, if Windows still blue screens even after a clean install of Windows, then you're almost certainly looking at faulty hardware. It's either faulty RAM or a faulty hard drive or SSD, and if you've already tested those components and they do check out and they're fine, then you potentially have a faulty graphics card or a faulty motherboard or CPU. At that point, you have to take it to a repair shop so they can check it out professionally, or contact your system manufacturer. But just to quickly recap the blue screen of death troubleshooting order, first off, ask yourself what changed recently with regards to new hardware or software that was installed on your computer. Secondly, either update outdated drivers or roll back drivers that have been recently updated to previous versions. Thirdly, test your RAM or memory for errors. After that, check your disk health. Run hardware diagnostics on your hard drives and SSDs and ensure that they are in perfect health and they're not failing. Once you've verified that, then you can move on to scanning and repairing corrupt Windows system files with SFC ScanNow and the DISM restore health command. And if it's so bad that you can't even get into your system, then you can boot up into safe mode and do all of the previous steps that we just discussed, and also try do a system restore to go back to a previous point in time when Windows was working stable. And lastly, if none of that works, then you will have to do a clean install or reset your computer to get a fresh Windows installation and wipe everything so you can start off with a clean slate. Now, I really hope this video helped fix your blue screen. If it did, let me know which method fixed the blue screen for you. And if you found this video helpful, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel if you're not subscribed. I make videos like this every single week, and I also build software that makes Windows better. If you've never heard about my utility Winenhance, the Windows enhancement utility, then I highly suggest that you check out the video on screen now, because if you're a Windows user, you'll definitely find value in Winenhance. So go ahead, click on the video on screen now, and I'll see you in the next one.